And good evening at 8 o'clock Pacific time. The Old Tube Radio Network. Real radio's glowing in the dark on your 27 megahertz frequency of choice. In this case, it's channel 11, 27085. And let's turn the audio down over there. And we will say, if you'd like to join us tonight, you can do so by listening in and turning on, tuning in, and checking in your tube radio. Whether it be from 1958 or 1978, Class D citizen radio service, there were a lot of tubes, and we will find which ones are checking in tonight as we progress through our network tonight. First, we're going to start with the shortwave listeners, the SWLs, whether they be from local areas here in Central California or perhaps all over the Universal Media Net web at oldtuberadio.net, where we are now streaming, and also at Google YouTube, where the video, I hope, is doing its thing. So without any further ado, let's continue and start the roll call. We'll have radio check-ins in about 30 minutes here on OTR. Top of our page one, as always, is our station with perfect attendance, chosen from the stations with perfect attendance from the last 8 weeks, and that's SWL 00. I believe it is Phil.
Present.
Okay, I hadn't marked in on my list. It was SWL 56, and I was trying to think who is 00, and then I remembered it is definitely Phil. You are sounding good and getting us started off. Thanks. SWL number 1, who always manages to be in and around way before I get things set up here. So we got one checked in. SWL number 2, Mr. OBP, who is waving a hand and in the air chair over at the video chat, which you can participate in by, if you're at the oldtuberadio.net page, clicking on the OTR live box. That'll take you over to the YouTube side, where if you have any questions or comments, we will try and address those. Thank you, OBP, and he always gives us our sunspot report. Let me look over the other screen. 13. I know there has been some activity sun-wise because we are getting some reports of not only the evening skip, but some good conditions during the daytime. So 13 is a lot better than 0, which was what we have had for the last couple of weeks. So thanks for the update, Kevin. SWL 3. And he is out there. I saw him Thursday night at the bowling alley. He said if he didn't make it in, to make sure he gets checked in, and I will do that. Okay, I'm adjusting the foot switch so I don't break anything here. That would be a bad thing so early in the program. SWL 4. SWL 5. And we'll switch over to the Orban loudness meter so you can check your audio as you check in. SWL 6. And I did see 5 earlier in the week. That's Mama Rose, so I will get Ida checked in. SWL 7.
SWL 7 checking in. And I don't know if you heard on 2 meters, 111 checked in.
Oh, thank you for reminding me. You know, I didn't hear, because I'm sure I'm having some antenna issues. Normally he comes in very well on the FM side. Sometimes you don't get him on the AM side, and I notice some other stations not coming in as well, so I may have some issues. It is near a tree, and when the leaves get wet on the tree, it really does bad things to the little tiny VHF signals, so I may have to go up there and adjust a little bit. So thanks for that, and I'll make sure that Robert gets checked in at the appropriate time. We have email check-ins for 11 and 12. How about SWL 13? And yes, it is acceptable to check in at oldtuberadio.net. I will keep an eye out on the pages there, as always, to see who is out and about, and checking in here for our first program of 2018. Did I mention that the Old Tube Radio Network has been here on 27085 for a good 34 years, I think? doing what we do best, and that's listening for your radio check-ins and your hellos from the SWLs. Thanks to you, that's why we're still doing it. A lot of people out there want to participate on a Saturday evening on the 11-meter style radio. So there aren't a lot of us out there anymore, it seems like, but with the help of some social media items, I've noticed there is activity picking up, so that's a good thing. SWL 14. And we'll also be picking up as the sunspot numbers increase as we head into cycle 25. And thank you. Since 1986, checking in radios since 1986, according to Mr. OBP. SWL 15. SWL 16. SWL 17. SWL 18. I've got a check-in from Facebook for Mr. KDA, so we'll get Mikey checked in. SWL 19. Shortwave listener 20.
Number 20 here. And check-in number 29, if you would be so kind. And if I stay awake, as I didn't, I think 2 weeks ago, I'll try and check in a radio tonight.
All right, we will be pleased if you do. It's good to hear you here on the roll call. The radio is sounding very loud tonight. I don't know, set an alarm, or hopefully we'll have enough things going on here to keep you awake. I never seem to have problems keeping awake, but that could be because of the help of the jingle singers and Bozo Control in the other room. If they see me nodding off, they'll come in and throw something at me. Thanks for checking in. We'll get 29 coming up. SWL 21, and I know that Mr. JT is out there. He was listening in early to our pre-show banter and says, what does he say? He did say something. Oh, there it is. Checking in after talking skip. A lot of the stations, at least not here on the West Coast, are mentioning that they have been talking skip all over. JT mentions North Carolina, and it's not backscatter. Someone mentioned that they were hearing the coast here, so things are changing for the good, and as he says, lots of fun. That's why we're here, to have some fun on the radio tonight. Thanks, JT, for checking in. Let's go over to SWL 23. SWL 24. SWL 25.
Hello, Dennis, 25 checking in. If you could also check in 74. And I do have a message from you from Tim from Channel 30 said hello. Anyway, back to you.
Mr. Tim, I haven't seen him in a while. He has been sort of jet-setting. Now that he's retired, him and his wife have been jet-setting it around and having a good time now that he doesn't... we were in the shift where you have to get up at 3 in the morning a lot of times, so I'm sure he's not... He's sleeping in till at least 6:30 now, probably. We'll get to Jillian the appropriate time, and you are sounding mighty loud tonight.
Hey, thanks, Dennis.
All right, and why does it say the video has an error? Let me... No, it looks like we're still on. There it is. I think it was my page. Or it didn't like something I did. Heading over to page 2, let me see who is out listening on the digital side tonight. I saw a lot of stations tuning in here to the old Tube Radio Network. Hopefully you all do something similar, whether it's a get on the air night or a vintage night or whatever in your local areas like we do here. Hello to Fresno, of course, a lot of stations listening in Fresno. Fish Camp up in the mountains where I'm sure it's raining. Somerville, South Carolina has got a row right up here in the stage lights tonight. We've got Quebec, Riverview, Florida, our Florida stations, North Carolina coming up to you, Dallas, Georgia, hello. Hello to New York coming up to you. Oakland, California has been in most of the afternoon, evening. Sandy, Utah, coming up to you. Raining here. I wonder if we're getting snow. Colorado, Tennessee. Hello to Washington, Virginia, more New York, another California station. Lexington, Kentucky. The unknown SWL. We should have a special tube just lit for that unknown SWL. Ashland, Oregon. Haven't been up there in a long time. Used to head up there for the Shakespeare Festival. Are they still doing that up in Ashland? I imagine they are. It was a nice thing. And Brentwood. That's X4000. We'll get X4000 checked in right now as we go to page 2. Mr. Preservio Stemish at the control panel, beaconing in from parts unknown. Let's try SWL 27. SWL 29, we have a proxy check-in for Mr. Loner. SWL 31, that will take us to our Hendersonville, Tennessee stations who are out there tonight. Hello, Robert and Teresa listening in. Hope all is going well and that you're getting some skip. In fact, Robert says, yes, they're having skip big time. That's out in Tennessee. So who knows? We talked to Spokane, Washington last week a couple of times. It was 709 popped in there, so hopefully we will have something going on here tonight. Any stations will take your skip reports, find out what's going on. Corey says that skip is rolling in hard from the East Coast right now up in the northwest, so there is conditions. How about SWL 32? SWL 33 is myself and the Jingle Singers, and everybody is here. We haven't heard from the Jingle Singers yet, but I know we tested things out earlier and they were all sounding good. SWL 34. SWL 35. And let me mention that 35 is out there, and I'll get the report from Cheyenne, Wyoming. Looks good. Mr. Bill, if you are still listening, we've got you checked in. Hope the weather is not too nasty for you out there. SWL 36. Hope you are not getting wet. Checking in, but you are sounding good, Roy. All right. Not sure if he has to jump out the truck to check in, but make it quick. We've got a check-in for SWL 37, who may be listening in on his Universal Media NetWeb device, and is being dubbed the the GOF, the grumpy old fart, at his temporary place of residence here. We do expect to hear him on live and direct next week. So if you're listening, Chris, we've got you checked in, and glad to hear that you are feeling better by the minute. Over to SWL 38. SWL 39.
39 checking in.
39 sounding good. 39 checking in. You must have found the dry spot out there at the ranch.
Yeah, it's too hot in here to get on the radio in the summer, and it's too cold and wet to get on the radio in here in the winter.
A tale of Goldilocks and the 3 tube radios. You have to wait until it's just right to get out there. Well, I'm glad you chose tonight. Always good to hear 39 on the frequency. Thank you, Dan. Over to SWL 40. He's probably out there looking for that skip that everybody is talking about. That doesn't seem to be happening too much tonight here on the West Coast, but I bet it will. SWL 41. SWL 42.
Good evening, Dennis. 42, 90, and 137 checking in.
All right, we will get the triple play. Have you been monitoring on 38 lower? Is there anybody talking DX here at this moment?
I'm bouncing back and forth, and I haven't caught nothing just yet.
All right, well, maybe they'll send it this way. That's the way 6-meter openings happen, too. If you look at the map just of U.S., there'll just be little holes that open up, and that seems like what's happening here tonight on on 11 meters, 10 meters, and maybe even 6 meters. Thanks for checking in. SWL 43. SWL 44. 44 is in. And he says it's just starting to snow. And that was, how long ago was that? About 3 minutes ago. 3 to 5 minutes ago, just starting to snow up there in Utah. So Ray batten down the hatches. Hopefully it won't, not too much. I'm not sure if you have to blow or shovel anything. That's something I've never had to do. So I've seen the pictures. I've seen the pictures of the snow on your mobile antenna. See what happens tonight. Maybe we'll get some conditions. We got Spokane last week, so have the 5 watts fired up. Let's head up a little closer to home, but up the hill where I know it's cold, but I know it's not snowing. SWL 45.
Yeah, that's better. 45. You're sounding good tonight, Dennis.
All right, we'll try to keep it that way for the rest of the evening. And how's the rain up there? Are you getting a lot, or is it just the standard stuff?
About a half inch so far. It's a pretty nice little storm.
Yeah, it turned out better than I thought it would, even down here when it started. I don't think we've got a half an inch yet, but the rain is good. The air is nice and clear. Thanks, Paul. If you're around the radio room, we will be talking to you a little bit later.
Thanks, Dennis.
SWL 46. Shortwave listener 47. SWL 48. And as always, I will be checking the Facebook pages. If you check in there, I will be sure to catch you at some point here in the next couple hours or so. SWL 49. Brian has been listening in from his secret location as of late. So we'll see if he's out there. Looks like he might have just checked in. I'll wait for the confirmation on the big page here for SWL 49. We'll keep you in the queue, Brian. SWL 50.
50 here. Good evening.
And Mark always lets me know if I've got my headphone monitoring volume up too high when he keys that radio down. I think I do need to make an adjustment. Sounding good, sir. I'm hearing some stations way out there. I don't know if it's local or something's moving in. Just if you're listening and you're not sure where you're at or where we're at, this is the Old Tube Radio Network. We are in Central California. We are broadcasting, or should I say transmitting, a live stream at oldtuberadio.net, and we are waiting for those tube radios that we'll be talking with here in about 20 minutes after the roll call. Looking for SWL 51.
51 checking in.
And 51 sounded good. I think my ground wave prop is really good tonight. All the stations that aren't really close are doing a good job. Thank you, sir. And as always, the great audio out of that station. I could only sound so good. SWL 52. Actually does sound like Skip trying to come in. SWL 53.
Hello, Dennis. 53 checking in.
That's where the guys on the V-quads are pointing around trying to figure out where the conditions are maybe happening tonight. Thank you, Bob. We got you checked in. That means we can go over to page 4, if I can find it, for SWL 54. SWL 55. Now, there's a station that might be getting some snow. We hear M&M come in earlier. We'll check on the snow report up at about 5,000 feet. Beaconing in, skidding into the control point, and waving a hand to all the SWLs and Old Tube Radio operators, SWL 13. Mr. Cobra is out there at oldtuberadio.net. Hi, Mike. Let me get you checked in officially on the big board. And thanks for tuning in tonight. Let's see, we didn't hear 55, but I bet we will hear SWL 56.
Also present.
2 presents. You'd think it was Christmas again. We've gotten 2 presents so far from Phil tonight. Sounding good. Let's try SWL 57. SWL 59. To kind of see who's where on the list tonight. SWL 60.
Thank you much, Dennis. Doggone, go ahead and check in this undermodulated station here. SWL 60 checking in this DX 2527. Thank you.
All right, well, if that's undermodulated. Looks good on the Orban meter, and it sounds good here at 27085 in Fresno, and probably everywhere else on the Universal Media Net web. Thanks for checking in, Joe.
Thank you, Dennis.
SWL 61, Dean.
61, check it in, Dennis.
Also sounding good. Thank you, sir. We've got an X in the square here at the Old Tube Radio Network.
Thank you, sir.
SWL 62.
Evening time, Dennis. This is 62, checking in from downtown Clovis. I just turned 92 or 91 last week, so I'm one of the older gentlemen now.
I was thinking about you. I thought, I know you have a birthday around now, and you sound great. I'm saying in 2019, you have found the proverbial fountain of youth. It's out there right around the corner of what is it, Woolworth or Woodworth and and 4th Street or something. Sounding good. The radio is top shape tonight. And we should all sound that good at 91. Yeah, I want to be SWL 62. Sounding good, Rex. Lucky Lindy, one of our stations that has been with us probably since 1986, waving a hand. Thanks for checking in. And as he says, on time and on frequency. Back in the good old days, and that was sort of the way you had to be, or else you'd get a visit from somebody. SWL 63. Oh, we got a snap, crackle, pop on the tram back here. And that is Bubba and our New York stations representing all the big iron on the East Coast. Who's still in there? Albion's in there. Angola's in there, as always. So hello to the New York stations, and thanks for giving us support here on the left coast with our tube radios. Next is SWL 64. SWL 65.
65, checking in.
Sounding good. SWL 65. Eric at the Microphonium live and direct will hit this button, and you are checked in.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
And hello to our new stations listening in closer in from Concord, California. Hello to Forest City, Iowa, also tuning in the Old Tube Radio Network tonight. Waiting for those tube radios to start glowing in the dark here in less than 15 minutes. Looking for SWL 66. SWL 67.
Question.
This is the question frequency. Over.
Hey, very quickly, Tim wants to know how to get on the big board.
Well, let's see. One way you could do that is, let's see, go to oldtuberadio.net. I'm trying to think. Actually, I could do that. And if I do that now we got a hello to Timmy up on the big board. Tell him he's famous worldwide now.
All right. Outstanding, Dennis. Yeah, I told him about the live streaming URL there, so he's been listening. So anyway, just want to let you know. Thanks, Dennis, and sorry to interrupt.
Not a problem. The voice of Roding Park and the voice that kept us all awake for a good reason, for a good cause at 5 a.m. in the morning for so many years. Don't hear 68 on. Let's try SWL 69.
69 checking in, Dennis.
Sounding good, sir. SWL 69, Kenny. And if that's the Mustang 2, it's doing a good job. SWL 70. Oh, and here comes the skip. It's not even gray line, is it? SWL 71. And Mr. Stan, where is Mr. Microphone? I know he is out there tonight. Checking in, Stan, who knows skip when he hears it, says that 10 meters has been in all evening on the East Coast. 6 meters was also in a couple of hours ago. That's what I thought. When we get the late night conditions that are spotty throughout the U.S., you can also count on 6 meters. I'm sure that the stations that are going to be participating in the upcoming VHF contest are keeping an eye and an ear out on these conditions, because this is the stuff that VHF contests are made of, especially when 6 meters open. 6 meters is kind of an interesting band where you will get a 20 over signal for about 30 seconds, and then it will be gone. So you've got to make your contacts quick. Stan says he's hearing mostly Florida. And thanks, Stan, for the update. You just never know where we'll pick up stations. SWL 72. SWL 73. I'm going to check in 73 because I've been hearing him on my 2-meter radio of late, even though not very well because my antenna's not that great, but we'll get Mr. MI checked in. SWL 74, the illustrious Miss Jilly. Not quite near the 50,000 watt radio tonight, but for some reason I can hear her voice echoing through the Universal Media Net web. Over to SWL 75. As the skipland is rolling around as well. SWL 77.
Good evening, Dennis, and good evening to all the listeners out there, for sure. 77 on the Tower of Power, waving a hand, and glad to be here.
Sounding good. Thought I'd drop the foot switch there, but not so. Sounding good. We've got Lee Summit, Missouri, checking in. A lot of stations listening at oldtuberadio.net. Maybe they're checking propagation to see where things are at. Just never know who we will hear tonight. So if you're out there listening, keep your radios handy and tune in to 27085 and see what you can pick up on the E-skip. SWL 77 is one of our local stations that can do a good job when the bands open up. Thanks, Dennis. SWL 78. SWL 79. SWL 80. Page 4, the patient people, SWL 81. The Old Tube Radio Network here in Central California, oldtuberadio.net, streaming the audio and waiting for those tube radios to pounce upon us here in about 5 or 6 minutes. SWL 82. SWL 84. SWL 86. SWL 87. Shortwave listener 88. SWL 89. I think people are recuperating from the new year. SWL 90, we have a check-in for 90. That takes us over to SWL 92. SWL 90, let's see, 92, was that you? Over? I have to keep my ears open because 92's out in Madeira. SWL 93. He may be, and now the band's open, he may be up there at 38 sideband doing some skip. SWL 98.
Checking in, Dennis.
Sounding good, Dave. How are things going?
Oh, it's cold here in Fresno.
That happens sometimes, whether we want it to or not. Sounding good, sir, and we got you checked in.
All right, thank you very much.
And I believe I gave this station a radio check earlier, and he was sounding fine. Mr. Cheese, SWL 103. SWL 109. SWL 110. SWL 111, who checked in with a great signal everywhere but here. Thanks to my antenna. He was roaring in on the FM side on 2 meters. Robert, if you're listening, got you checked in. Thanks for that. Also, I haven't been looking at the video. Who is out there waving a hand tonight? Corey is on talking about the skip. It's sort of trying to come in here. TB40 Ford is also representing the Bluegrass State tonight. Thanks, Travis. Looking good on the video side tonight. And somebody's saying hello to the mighty KUH. So Brian is out there. Brian, if you're out there, I'm assuming you might have some 6-meter gear. Keep your 6-meter beam or your lawn chair omnidirectional up and running, because things could happen at any time. Looking for SWL 113. SWL 114.
114, checking in.
114. Wayne, you are sounding good. Hope you're staying dry. Thanks for checking in.
Thank you for the check-in.
SWL 128 takes us over to the digital listener side. Let me see if John Lee is waving a hand. I know I saw him earlier. Rainy morning. We had rainy afternoon. Nice sunny afternoon. We had I wouldn't call it sunny. I did see the sun this morning. I went out and raked and swept the entire gutter side because I knew it was going to rain. So everything is nice and not muddy and yucky. And then it started to rain. So let it be muddy and yucky. John wishes everyone a happy new year. And my guess is he probably has some skip going on over there as well. Thanks, 128. Over to SWL 131.
131 checking in.
Hey, good to hear you here in 2019, Mr. Rude. Long-time listener, and he's not even a first-time caller either. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Dennis. You guys have a good one.
SWL, where are we going? West side of Fresno here. SWL 133. Actually, the northwest side. SWL 135. We've got a check-in for the Phantom, SWL 137. Heading up and away to SWL 147 out there in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And what does Neil have to say for conditions and things this week? Mentioning lots of rain, clearing up fine, though. Looking on the radar, looks like Sierras are getting some snow. Yeah, we are definitely. It just started here this morning. The coast, the Bay Area has been getting it since last night, and looks like it'll be happening for a while. You heard one report of half an inch of rain up in the foothills, so I don't think we have that happening. He mentions another lively DX session tonight all over the band, mostly deep south and North England. Had a contact in Georgia, which is rare. Yeah, it sounds like the skip was kind of short. Kind of a short hop, mid-hop. Good stuff. Good to hear the bands are opening up and people are having a good time, which is what we plan to do tonight here in just minutes as the tuba radios start parading across your Universal Media Network. Thanks, Neil, for checking in. Let's head up to where it's cold and rainy for sure. SWL 195.
195, checking in, Dennis. Good evening to you.
And good evening, sir. The Course Gold Starliner. Jim waving a hand to all. Thanks, 195. Got you checked in.
Thank you, sir.
And I might need a 10.5 if anyone hears SWL 226. Are there any stations that I missed or someone would like to check in now? We will be listening for you before we head over to the Tube Radio's OTR listening. I will make a few adjustments, and we will be back with your glow-in-the-dark Tube Radios on the old Tube Radio Network.
Station.
The station, in the nick of time, coming in from a great round of sandbagging. Go ahead, station.
Yep. Always sandbagging. SWL 93 checking in. And by the way, did you catch the old man with the glasses?
I will be doing that. Sometimes I'll check it before the net starts, and when I get into doing things here, it's a little hard to go to the other page, but I will make sure before I sign out of everything tonight, we will head over to that page and probably see your message.
Check. You'll be seeing that for the next couple weeks. I will not be by the radio, so keep an eye out on that page. I will be there.
Sounds good. I will keep an eye out for that. Others can do the same or go to oldtuberadio.net. And if you have, I believe you now have to have a Facebook account to actually get in to check in on the page. You can do so there, and I will catch that as well. Setting up for the Tube Radios, back in a moment, the old Tube Radio Network.
Break OTR.
And the break OTR, go ahead, please. Over. Waving a Happy New Year. I can hear you fluttering in on those rain clouds down here to the flatland tonight. Doing a good job, and thanks for saying hello to the old Tube Radio Network in 2019. We got you checked in.
Thank you, Dennis.
We are back and ready for the glow-in-the-dark radios. Jingle singers will sing us in.
How do you do, ladies and gentlemen?
Greetings to you.
Wherever you are, for music and the latest news from home and from afar, the station for you is
OTR, Old Tube Radio.
The station for you is
OTR.
We hope the station for you is OTR. That's the Old Tube Radio Network. Coming up on our 34th year of Saturday evening fun time, if you will, on your vintage tube radios. Thanks to those who take time out of whatever they're doing on a Saturday evening, sneaking away from the family activities for just a moment to join us and fire up a classic tube radio. Sort of like the classic automobiles parking at the local hamburger stand and getting out and taking a look at the fins and chrome. That's what we do here each week. 27085 is the frequency, channel 11. And thanks to you and your radios, we'll see how we can do tonight. OTR is listening.
45. 25.
And we have to, I noticed the skip is just starting to dial in, so we'll see how we do tonight. Hello, Jerry, SWL 25. Step up into the green room, have yourself a cookie. We will be right with you as Paul, SWL 45, steps up into the air chair. I grab the old tube radio list, our first edition here for 2019. And Paul, tell us about the radio. I might be able to guess this one. I'm getting good. I've been doing this long enough now that I may actually be able to guess some radios when I hear them, but I have an idea that I know what this one is. Over.
You want to try first?
All right. I'm thinking that this is a 40-channel, one of the very few 40-channel Brownings.
No, I got that one, but it's not that one. This didn't have the ping on the thing. When I keyed up before, I had another radio on and made it sound like a ping when I first checked it in there. This is my General Radio Telephone, Master Control MC2.
Oh, but I was way off. So much for 2019. It's off to a bad start already. The General Radio Telephone, the MC is in Master Control, and I believe you said the Master Control MC2, is that correct?
2. I have the 1 also, but it's not operating this time. This is a second General Radio Telephone manufactured for sale. This right here was the second one. So the one I have is not in operation. So this is one of the first ones, 1959. And I'll tell you what, it's got a few things on here that the other ones don't have, but the other ones have more as the other ones. That makes any sense. They're just same amount of switches, but different stuff. And they were making radios right and left. They made 2 radios in 1959. This one and the first one made. They continue on kicking radios out about every 2 or 3 years or more. Anyway, I'm sure you tell some more about it, Dennis, so go ahead.
General Radio Telephone, Master Control 2. We have a photo up at oldtuberadio.net, and those tuning into the video should see something as well. This says that it's from your collection, actually, so we might actually be looking at the radio, same radio that we are listening to, which is always a good thing. This was CB radio in its infancy, the Class D, with the tunable receiver, so you could get all 23 channels without having to buy crystals, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 crystal-controlled channels. The FCC designated that, unlike amateur radio, you had to be crystal-controlled, channelized, if you will. Paul is right, 1959 is the year of production, and we'll go back to you for another transmission.
So I'm running a Turner, let's see what I'm running this in, Plus 3. Yeah, it's an amplified microphone. And the radio just didn't have enough poop to get up there with the other microphones, so I'm running this one. Yeah, this just has a channel for VFO, and it is tunable VFO, and it tunes itself. It's very active VFO in this thing. You have to keep on adjusting it. But you know, 1959, this had a couple of years on it. This radio has a spot switch way ahead of time on things, which is unusual. And it has a transmit crystal socket between the volume control and the transmit crystal there. You can see the hole there. That's for a transmit crystal. Other than that, it's just looks almost like it. Well, looks exactly like the other radio. Same size, just different runs, different things made things in as they change radios all along the line there. So anyway, back to you guys. A big wave.
It's doing a good job. We're battling a little bit of some DX coming in, and the audio is nice and loud. The signal is good as well, and you're 100% copy through the noise. I'm not sure I'm going to fare as well. The 7-tube radio that we're listening to, the MC2, has the same circuit as the MC3, but a different face. The microphone is, like you said, the Electro Voice high-efficiency ceramic. General Radio Telephone was really great about figuring out supplying you with a microphone that was tailored to the radio to sound good without having to add modulators or amplifiers, as Paul is proving. The radio has a spot switch because that's how you make sure that you are listening to the frequency on which you are transmitting. When you have a tunable receive and crystal transmit control, there's a way to spot the transmitter, and they gave you that. What else? It also has a S meter. It has an S meter, which was actually, I don't have a price on this. That was the big time for 1959. There aren't a lot of 1959 radios that did have S meters at all. They were usually little boxes, like shoe boxes with tubes in them. But this is a very deluxe radio for the time. Paul, if you're still hearing me through the noise, give us another transmission before we head over to the next radio. But I'm enjoying this one. It's playing quite nicely from 1959. As good as any car with the big tail fins, that's for sure.
Well, when you're out, the lower note, believe it or not, I'm real pleased to receive on the thing. You got your radio pitch. It sounds real good. So no problem hearing you at all. But I'll tell you, it's surprising me that this thing has got received like it does. Well, that's about it on the thing. I'll tell you, it's just a neat radio and old radio. Real pleased to have it. Thanks, Dennis.
And really loud audio. I'll put in the Orban loudness meter, and you're down up to like a minus 12, which is the loudest station that I have heard so far tonight. So thanks for bringing it by. Radio number 1, the Old Tube Radio Network here in Central California, oldtuberadio.net, the live stream audio. And our first radio of the evening from General Radio Telephone, originally out of beautiful downtown Burbank. Obviously, they're not there anymore, but in 1959... starting out in a big way with the radio we just heard from Paul's collection, the General Radio Telephone MC number 2. Let's call on SWL25 Jerry, who should be stepping up in the air chair. He is going to have our radio number 2, and I know the conditions, band conditions, have changed a little bit, sir, so hopefully 25 is still copying net control. Over.
No, you sound good, Dennis, and just kind of walking out of a great room, and I appreciate all the champagne and hors d'oeuvres with the jiggle singers, and they're in a good mood tonight. They're having fun. Anyway, 25 checking in on a Sonar Model G, crystal controlled 8-channel, and talking on a non-powered big old fat Sonar stock microphone. And, obviously this was designed as a mobile, but I get the guy right here and stacked on, I'm even surprised these radios still work as long as I've had them. But anyway, back to you, Dennis. Oh, by the way, Tim is listening, and I don't know if anyway, he's having fun. He's enjoying it. Anyway, I'll talk to you back to you.
Back to me in the studio. Yeah, the stations out there tonight, we're getting a little bit of the skipland, so you may want to check your collections for the radios that rock and roll when conditions are just a little bit less than stellar, which is about what we have now. In the first 2 radios from 1959, the General Radio Telephone, and then a few years later, the Sonar model. Before I go, did you say that was a Model G as in golf or E as in Edgar? Over.
That is a Model G as in golf. You know somebody to clean.
All right, that's good, because that's the one, I did hear you correctly, and that's the one we are showing, the Sonar Model G. Another radio that, with the stock supplied microphonium, can really belt out some good modulation to break through the noise, as you are proving through our skip tonight. I guess I should listen and find out where the conditions are open for the skip tonight. It doesn't sound like the mini grass, which is normally where we would expect this late night DX to open up. The Sonar Model G, there are groups on the internet that are dedicated to this very radio, the Sonars. $229.50 was the price that typically you would find this at the local electronics store or wherever you might be purchasing it back in the early 1960s. And yours sounds pretty much like the day it came out of the box, I think. Over.
Okay, Dennis. Well, anyway, thanks for checking it in, and you can tell it was designed as a mobile. Back in the day when we had the big cars like Oldsmobile 442s and stuff, there was plenty of room to mount these suckers. And nowadays, boy, it's hard to even find a place to mount a cell phone. So anyway, it was designed as a mobile, and has the S meter in front, and it's swinging back and forth as I talk, and anyway, that's about it, Dennis. Thanks for checking it in. Back to you.
Thanks for bringing it by, the Old Tube Radio Network, where we talk about and talk with the operators of the classic old tube radios from 1958 to 1978. They ain't making them anymore, but they sure sound good on a Saturday evening. And we're also having some DX skip conditions. I want to say hello to those watching the video, to the Mighty Juliet Whiskey. Hello, John, up there in Iowa. Just never know what we're going to be hearing tonight. Looks like Ray may be seeing if we get some conditions up to Utah. And OBP reporting that 6 meters is opening up in a few spots. Probably maybe around here. If 10 opens up, 11 opens up, you might get some little spots with 6 meters as well. This is the Old Tube Radio Network. We're looking for radio number 3.
Number 7.
45.
All right, I got to make sure who's skipping, who's not. SWL7, step up into the air chair. You'll be radio 3. And Paul, 45, we will catch you next as radio number 4. So I'm grabbing my list here. At 8, we'll call it 8:52 Pacific time. The Old Tube Radio Network, looking at Radio 3. Hello, Ed.
And hello, Dennis, and all the SWLs. This is a Tram TR27 Echo with the Electro Voice microphone.
Sounding good. You could probably pick any radio tonight to cut through the skip, but as per my earlier suggestion, this would be a radio of choice on an evening like tonight where you do need a little bit of extra effort maybe to make it through the noise. Of course, you have no problem. The Tram TR27E, I think, wins on just size, sheer size alone. Just brute force. There's a picture of the Tram TR27E, and we're lucky again. This is the photo of the actual radio on which Ed is talking, the big green machine. Back to you, sir.
There you go. Yep, the big green machine, 5x7 speaker, an S meter that's about 3.5 inches wide, 3 inches tall. Nothing small on the radio. Volume, noise limiter, which works really well. Squelch, a little modulation light there that peaks at modulation level, which it seems to be doing now. And I have the 638 microphone from Electro Voice.
And what has to be on any CB radio, I think one of the Titans may have had that similar S meter, but the very large S meter that makes it fun to give out signal reports.
There you go. It is big, and although it is a bit stingy, no one really hits it way up at the top, so it's a little bit on the lacking side there, but it still works. Showing the modulation also moving when I speak, so it's definitely working.
And like, I think it's SWL's 25's German boss used to say, it is definitely working. The Tram TR27E from 1963, the last in the series of the Tram 27s. And probably, I was looking up on a chart here that is failing me now because it's not in alphabetical order, to see if I could come up with a price point for that radio, but I'm pretty sure it was well into the $250, $220 range. I'll see what I can find out with that. But in the meantime, before we head over to Radio 4, give us another transmission on radio from 1963, sounding good here in 2019.
There you go, from 1963. Well, never had to do a thing to it. It's been just operating fine. Looks pretty darn good, too, so I can't complain. I hope this one will keep on broadcasting on OTR as long as I can. With that, we'll let you get to the next person.
I think it will. We've been doing quite well here for the last 34 years, thanks to stations like yourself that take the time out to share with us and the SWLs their vintage radio collection. Stepping up into the air chair now, radio number 4, sneaking in before the 9 o'clock hour here at Central California, SWL 45, Paul, who is up in North Fork, the foothills, 30 or 40 miles northeast of Fresno. Hello, Paul. What do you have for us in the way of radio pleasure? Over.
Okay, Dennis. This is another General Radio telephone. It's the next one that they made. It's an MC3.
General Radio telephone MC3, and I believe when I was reading some information earlier that the 2 and 3 were somewhat similar. You know, General Radio telephone typically never put out another version of radio unless they had done something, peaked and tweaked something to it. So let me grab a shot of the MC3 here, and we'll go back to you for your thoughts on another good radio.
Okay, that's something they put in this right here is the first one that had the tone control on the thing. Can you hear it?
Yeah, I can. It sounds great. Let me point out, anyone watching the video, there is a switch. I'll point to it. It's called tone. Looks like it says tone signal right below the S meter. And the noise you heard, the high-pitched oscillation, is being produced by engaging that switch. Over.
That's correct. And it is a noise, too. I'll tell you, very irritating, that noise. Especially if you were having 3 or 4 of them going at the same time. It'd be really, really bad. But anyway, this is 6 transmit crystals on the thing, and 4 receive crystals on this one. There's also got a VFO, which I'm using right now, and it's drifting real bad, so I may lose you for a little bit, but I can bring it back in. It's 7 tubes like the other one. This also works on 6, 12, or 115 volt AC. They made all the old cars back in there, the 6-volter. That's about it. It's just like the last one, but just 4 goodies on the thing. It's got a local distance control on the thing. That's the best. Anything else looking on here? Tone signal is the big added item. So anyway, that's about it. Thank you.
All right, Paul. Good. These are two, the MC2 and the MC3, that we have not heard in some time. So it's great starting off the new year with some classic radios that really were the foundation, built the base for the early CB radio days, which in theory the Class D 11 meters was set up not to be like amateur radio where you're talking to stations that you don't know with hobby-like communications. They were mainly set up to be base to mobile. These radios were built like that. They could go base like you're using it. They could run mobile in your 6-volt car, your 12-volt system. And you had a license with the base station and then unit. So it might be a KEO 8492 base to Unit 2. Unit 2 might be a family member on the way home from work, and you'd ask them to pick up a loaf of bread. That was the citizen band communication. It was not for hobby use. It could also be used for business use. And the tone signal that we heard earlier, imagine if you have the radio sitting on a table somewhere in the living room, and as you're hearing tonight a lot of noise, it might be kind of distracting, so you turn your squelch up a little bit or turn your volume down, and your other station, your mobile unit, might put that tone signal on, the beep, 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 and you would say, I know that tone, and you would go to the radio, turn up the volume, and then you would hear your other radio station asking you a question or telling you to do something. So the tone signal was something like that, kind of an alert where you could keep the volume down and the squelch set a little bit, and that tone signal would burst through, and you would hopefully turn things up and grab the call. 7 tubes, as Paul mentioned. I noticed there's 2 EL84s for the RF audio output modulator, a 12AU 7, and a couple of 6-volt tubes. So not bad with 7 tubes, considering a lot of the new ones have 11, 12, and 13. Doing a good job. Also, if you're going to oldtuberadio.com and you are interested in maybe purchasing a radio that you see like that, there is a schematic, so you'd be able to do a little peeking and tweaking. Unless you're like me and you don't know what you're doing, then you would stay away from it. But we do have a schematic at oldtuberadio.com. This is the Old Tube Radio Network. Real radio's glowing in the dark. It is right at the 9 o'clock hour. Let's go over to Studio B, where the Jingle Singers will tell us about their favorite place on a Saturday.
How do you do? Ladies and gentlemen, greetings to you. Wherever you are, your favorite spot on the dial by far is known to you as
OTR, the Old Tube Radio Network.
the station for you is
OTR.
And we are listening for radio number 5. Also, I wanted to say hello to... It's Steve and Bob, the Steve and Bob show out there in Ohio. Steve's in Westchester, Bob is in Oxford. They're checking in for 2019, wishing OTR and all the tube radio operators and SWLs a great and prosperous new year. And they will sit in the air chairs and help the singers with the on-air moments. The Jingle Singers have long ago kicked me out, saying don't even get close to the ribbon microphone. So if they need help, thanks guys, because they no longer let me in there. Also waving a hand from New York, where I believe it is early Sunday morning, but if you tune in on your 75-meter ham bands, probably up around 3880, 3890, no doubt those stations with the big antennas and the legal, 1,500-watt outputs and then some, are probably out there tonight enjoying some great amplitude modulation. So, Smarty, thanks for waving a hand from your location to the Old Tube Radio Network. And as you can hear, the band has finally opened up here on the West Coast. And Rob, our great SWL from Colorado, who's got a great station there, and I don't know what type of antenna you're running, Rob, but is mentioning that the Old Tube Radio Direct on 27085 is sort of sneaking in, even with my really down in the mud Starduster antenna, way low on the ground, thanks to Rob's great Colorado ears picking us up tonight direct on 27085. So hello to all the stations listening in, the Old Tube Radio Network, starting off 2019 in a great way. We are looking for radio number 5.
Number 7.
All right, I've got Mr. Ed, SWL7, jump up into the air chair. You'll be radio 5 at 9:04, and let me see if was there another station trying to break in, over? Probably Skipland. We'll get some more. 9:04 is my time. 5 is the radio. Mr. Ed, SWL7 at the microphonium of something. Tell us what you got. Over.
Well, this one is from E.F. Johnson, the Messenger 223. And yes, there is a AM broadcasting right now on 3885.
Yeah, my guess is that if they're up to 85, they are probably not on the West Coast. West Coast, of course, 3870, 3875. But Saturday evening, Sunday morning is a great time to take your boat anchor and make an old buzzard transmissions. Our radios aren't, I guess, compared to what you buy today, they would qualify as boat anchors. And we do our best to try to take an occasional old buzzard transmission, but we got to keep things moving here. So our radio operators are usually kind enough to to forego the buzzard part of everything. Tell us more about the EF Johnson Messenger 223 while I try to find a representative or two photo of said item.
Oh, there you go. Well, matching microphones for it was a little bit of a challenge because I did not know that this had electronic switching in it. Therefore, there are certain microphones that don't work. That, and I've got the nice little blue LEDs in there that has been switched out instead of the regular incandescent bulbs. There's some buffalo nickels put in the place of the little metal discs that are in the knob, so it's at least worth 15 cents, and I've got a D104 Silver Eagle attached.
And beautiful AM audio. E.F. Johnson was no stranger to the transmitter side of things. Very popular, the Viking Valiant, the Ranger 2. I just saw a picture of a Johnson Desk Kilowatt, which is anybody that know the old metal office desks, well, they built in a kilowatt amplifier to that, and then you would set your exciter, such as, well, you could run an EF Johnson Messenger 223 on a Johnson Desk Kilowatt. Maybe drive maybe a little wimpy for it, but it would amplify. So I'm trying to think if Johnson made any receivers for amateur radio. But when they got into Class D, they had to pack everything into one box in the transceiver, and they did quite well, of course, on the transmitter side. And I'm going to say on the receiver side as well. Over.
Yes, between the Tram, the Browning, and the Johnson, they're pretty comparable. So they all have really nice receive.
Which is a good thing for me, Net Control, because that way I will be heard. We're showing the model that has, I'm not sure which, if the earlier models or the later models had the modulation light. I would think it would be kind of an addition on the later models, which I believe you do not have. Is that correct?
That is correct. I'm not sure when that little light came in either. I've got no idea if it was beginning, the end, somewhere in between, or what. But no, this one does not have that.
All right, we are showing the standard issue with the Turner or Johnson desk microphone. You heard Ed mention he's running the D104, which is really nice sounding, playing with that one. And then you'll have to imagine on these little inserts in the knobs, right there, and there, if you're watching the video, that there are some very cool buffalo nickels in the other edition of the LED blue light. So pretty cool. And that's one thing as an SWL, as a listener, you don't realize that it's like an old car. It get in the driver's seat behind the steering wheel, and it's just a lot of fun to operate these, the glowing lights, the patterns that it pushes across the room. And yes, there is that smell of the burning dust wafting through the convection cooling off the tubes that just makes it a complete set. Radio number 5, or is it 6? I have to look here. I've got you as number 5, so I'm going to call you radio number 5, the E.F. Johnson Messenger 223. Give us another transmission before you go. And thanks for bringing by a radio that was very popular in its run from 1969 to 1972 if you had about $200. Back to you.
Oh, there you go. Real easy to operate, just volume, squelch, channel selector, the microphone, and yeah, it makes it super simple. So there you go. With that, we'll go ahead and let you get to the next radio.
Just trying to see if I can hear where the stations are coming in from. And there is Tim Tron. Hello, Tim, up in the Pacific Northwest. He's listening to 27085. Tim has also been able to hear the Old Tube Radio Network and has a video, or had a video somewhere, of just sneaking in. My mud station just sneaking in on his. And I think Tim has the ICOM. Let us know, Tim. I think you've got the 7300. There's a couple of stations, or a station here in town that is new to the 7300, but I think that's the radio you have. I may be wrong, but I know it's an ICOM. But he is hearing some skip as well. So Tim Tron, who also has a great multi-banded radio set up there for 11 meters and also amateur radio. Thanks, Tim, for listening in. You just never know what might happen. And there is 709 up in Spokane. See what kind of conditions we have. 709 OTR can hear you. And yes, we are at oldtuberadio.net on the live stream. Over.
Right back down there, Old Tube Radio. Thought I'd check in if I can, man. Mr. 709 up in Spokane, working this 8-flat element up here in the Evergreen.
Sounding good from the Evergreen. All right, Tim, thanks for the update, the FTDX 3000. I should have known. I'm a Yaesu guy here as well, so it's sort of like calling a Ford guy a Chevrolet guy, right? But he says I'm close. And the 991 stacked together. Thanks, Tim, for the update. Spokane, Washington breaking through, so the conditions might be happening. 709 sounding good in the Old Tube Radio Network, where we are looking for radio number 6.
45. And 7.
All right, 7, hang on. We'll catch you for Radio 7. Radio 6 stepping up to the air chair right now. Hello, Paul. You can hear it's getting wild and woolly out on the band tonight as we have conditions from the Pacific Northwest, from the east, who knows where else. But hopefully we'll be able to make some communications here on the local side. Hello, Paul.
Hey, Dennis, I'm not bothering you any, that's for sure. You're still sounding good. I want to check in my other generator, one of my other general radio telephones. This is the next in line that they manufacture. It's an MC4.
Keeping in the early 60s, let me go to our beautiful downtown Burbank depository here and see if we can find a master control number 4. I've got an advertisement. Let me put up the advertisement here. It might not read too well, but I'm just curious what it talks about. Well, okay, it's all the general radio telephone ideas for Christmas in 1961, and one of those is the MC4, which we will be hearing in just moments from Paul. They also made looks like some type of a walkie-talkie, which is interesting, and then the Model 615 station console watt meter that I bet, Paul, you might have one of those. Over to you on the MC4, and we'll grab a shot.
Yeah, that old watt meter, I still have a few of them. They're working well. Strong watt meter, built just like the general. Anyway, this one is sold for $199.95 in 1961. So we started from 59 all the way up to 61, and they've manufactured 4 different radios in that time. Which is good. They kept on pushing them out, everything new. This has all the goodies on it. My tone tail, which just works when it wants to. I don't think it's working now, but I'll try later. It's got a spot switch, it's got a pressure and extra crystal at the bottom there below all that. It's got tune control, local distance, and all that on the thing. No tune control. see that. Yeah, zone control, yeah. And then the meter, and then it's just another great old elevator telephone. They kept on getting it better and better.
Making them there on the kitchen table, prototyping them out in beautiful downtown Burbank. We have a beautiful shot, and this is from Paul's collection. This may actually be the radio on which he is talking. And unlike the very interestingly lit photos that we get from Cliff that are in the studio, in the base station area, Paul often takes his radios outdoors and puts them in the, shall we say, flora and fauna. You can see this one out at his North Fork location with the trees in the background. I wonder how many of those trees are left, Paul. I'm sure this picture was taken some years ago. The great microphonium at the top, the channel selectors, S-meter, 6 crystal and 1 socket. So the actual 1, 2, 3, 4, also 6 volt, 12 volt, 115 volt AC. And yeah, I'm showing that $199.95 price tag, which for a radio with an S-meter and that sounded this good was a steal, even though back then that was a lot of money.
Yeah, it was quite a bit of money back then. But it's a quality radio, so I think it was worth it. Those trees you can see with that top there, there's 2 of those left, I think, out of all those. That Spartan meter was all the Ponderosas. Most of them, not all of them. I got a few left over here. I'm glad I got them. This thing has a stock microphone. This is a Luxor Voice ceramic microphone on this thing. Same one in the picture. The same radio and the same microphone. The microphone acts like it's putting real good outage, but it does 95%, I think, on the thing. Is it down all right, Dennis?
Yeah, sounding great. It's doing a great job. Again, the General Radio telephones sort of made to work out of the box with their great audio, the microphone up there at the top. So what you do is you have fun on Saturday evenings talking on the radio, and then Sunday morning you bring into the kitchen, and I think you make a Belgian waffle with that microphone. The audio is nice. Does the S-meter still work? On an old car, the one thing that usually is a centerpiece on the dashboard is the clock, but invariably they won't be working after 50, 60 years. I'm just wondering if the S-meter is actually moving around when I talk there.
Meter is working. All the lights are working on the thing also. Matter of fact, all 3 of these radios that you've heard, the meters are working. The one on the old one, the lights are not working on it. They just fixed that. But no, they're all working. They hold up well. I tell you, they fill them like a tank. I'll tell you, that's really like them. And with this ceramic microphone, it's doing a good job. But the last radio I had, it had a crystal mic in it. I forgot to tell you that, but I don't know what it sounded. You probably couldn't tell the difference on it now. But this is the one they came out with, the ceramic microphone. That's about it. Thanks, Dennis.
Well, thanks for bringing it by. I wanted to mention one thing. General Radio Telephone was not afraid to make their radios, I'm going to say, appeal to those with an electronic background. Notice they have rack handles. And anyone who's engineering or who has hung around radio stations or television stations, if you go back to the older equipment, the 60s and the 70s, all had the rack handles basically for easy mounting in and out of vehicles or into service carts or to screw into the racks. Now, of course, you wouldn't be doing that with this radio. And in theory, citizen band radio wasn't that kind of a technical thing, but the General Radio telephones always had that flavor of engineering with the rack handles. That's one reason I like it. I feel just at home, hanging around the TV station or the radio station, or in the radio room with the General Radio telephone. From 1961, the MC4. So we got the triple play. We got the MC2, the MC3, and the MC4. And little differences. I don't have a tube complement. They added the receive crystals, but all of them, taking the base radio that works nice, and each year or 6-month period adding just something extra to make you want to upgrade the radio. Schematic also available for this, oldtuberadio.com. Thanks for bringing it by.
Thanks for checking it in, Dennis.
And it sounds great. Hopefully you can, and Mr. Ed is stepping up into the air chair you can listen to the archives. I want to mention that we do archive the audio. You can go to the oldtuberadio.net page, and there's an archive button. If you click on that, you have to wait for about 3 minutes while all these small little 3-inch reel-to-reel audio tapes load into the OTR magnetophone. A display will give you many, many dates. You pick the date you want, such as January 5th, 2019, and whether you would like to listen to an SWL replay or a Tube Radio replay, and then use your Universal Media Net web player of choice, and you will hear the video replay. We kind of keep the videos up for a while as well, so if you'd like to watch or tune into the video, those should be available up at YouTube under the Old Tube Radio Network Live portion. Radio 7 is ready for us now, and I will say hello, Mr. Ed.
And hello, OTR. This time, the Browning Mark III SSB.
In good company with the General Radio Telephones tonight. If you thought the General Radio Telephone was a nice radio up there in the price range, the next step up would have been perhaps one of the trams like you checked in earlier, or even another step up would be the Browning Laboratories, and the Golden Eagle, of course, coveted by many, but owned... I would say owned by very few, but there are so many of them around. There were a lot of people that probably went without clothes and dinner to pay for those back in the day. Over to you for a transmission.
Oh, there you go. Well, yeah, big two-piece radio, largest radio definitely in my collection. In fact, I bought a desk especially for the radio, so that I would have one that would fit this darn thing instead of stacking it on top of each other. It's in the nice side-by-side mode, on the air light, and also have the Golden Eagle D104, so the double eagle, Golden Eagle.
The double eagle. I have procured the picture. I'm trying to position it so that we can see most of the items. We have the receiver on top. This is not a transceiver, which is both the transmitter and receiver in one box. That's what we've been doing tonight. This is a separate transmitter and a separate receiver, which is more in tune to the early 50s, radios of the early 50s, where you had two separate units that you paired together, the top unit being the receiving unit, the bottom unit being the transmitter unit. As Ed mentioned, the microphonium, the Gold D104, or the Golden Eagle, to match with the Browning Eagle. So our previous radio from 1961, here we jump up to at least 1972, 73, 74, 75, I think these went through. And this was some people say the top of the line radio. You can see there's lots of controls and dials. You just don't quickly set in front of this radio and start transmitting. There is some work to do before you get things ready.
There you go, setting the bias, and yes, you definitely need to read the instruction manual before you operate this radio. Well, sounds like you definitely got another breaker out there. Jeez, I can't even talk right. And we'll let you go ahead and get to them, and let you... anyway, well, we're off.
All right, well, you can see this has a speaker that may be as large, at least the enclosure, as large as some radios today. You would have, like some of the other radios, a spot switch where you would tune in your crystal-controlled transmitter. The FCC said you must be crystal-controlled, and then you would spot in your variable frequency control on the receive. Once you got those paired up, you might set your squelch and some other controls, and away you would go. Another cool thing, you have an on-the-air light. So you felt like you were in the big studio. When you key the microphone, the on-the-air underneath the speaker lights up. And away you go. The price on these, I didn't mention the price point, but in 1972, these were in the $700 range for both units. And for those of you who were around in 1972 and probably going to high school or entering college, you know that $700 could get you a darn good used car. So these were up there. What is that in today's dollars? Probably thousands and thousands of dollars. But but sounding good. AM and also SSB. This had the sideband, single sideband mode of operation as well. A lot of them still around. We check in a lot of them. They always sound good. Someone said built like a tank, and that's for sure. Radio number 7 at 921. The Old Tube Radio Network. I did hear a breaking station for our SWL roll call. Go ahead, over.
Over, under. It's me.
All right, bring up the SWL check-in list so that we can put you on the big board here. That's SWL 64. One-eyed Jack waving a hand not only to us here at 27085 in Fresno. I noticed the band is quieted down just a bit, but everywhere else on the Universal Media Net web, if you can copy my signal, sir, you are checked in.
Yeah, I figured I'd say something and not give you my number, see if you knew who I was. But I guess you were right.
Well, they make me practice each week and listen to the replay tapes so that I even though I may not look like I know what I'm doing, I give that appearance.
Yeah, I only have one-of-a-kind voice.
And that, too. That helps.
Anyways, thank you.
And the band is getting a little quiet, so typically that means the water has stopped boiling, but that's not to say it won't start boiling up somewhere else. We'll see what happens. And OBP, I see you referencing Chuckles and Vinegar. I would say don't go there. Those two tragic clowns from Fresno should be left where they're at. The Old Tube Radio. Speaking of Chuckles and Vinegar, who have made an appearance occasionally in our recording studio, right now in our recording studio are our very own jingle singers who will, near the bottom of the hour, tell us what we're listening to here.
You're listening in the latest style at
27.085 megahertz. Channel 11, Old Tube Radio.
In wonderful
Fresno, California.
The Old Tube Radio Network, listening for radio number 8.
How about this one?
That is a good Radio 8. It is loud tonight. The range boost has been... You must have taken the feather duster to the Harvey range boost.
Oh, yes, because I think you said there was a little bit of skip out there. Okay, the Golden Beagle R68T68 by Browning Lavatories with the custom D104 with the Browning medallion on the back there. That makes it custom, I guess. Okay, I got to get up early, so this will be it for me. Oh, and if number 45, Paul, is still listening, check your email, Paul. Check your email. Anyway, that'll be it for me tonight.
Sound good, Harvey?
Did you check it, Paul?
That's me.
What did he say, Dennis?
He said that's him, and if you heard Paul, Harvey is interested that you should check your email, over.
Okay, I got it. Thanks, Dennis.
Okay, now I can hear him. Yeah, I got a little static noise level here. Okay, that'll be it for me tonight. Gotta turn in, get up early for work. Busy time for me now. So I haven't had a day off at all. Okay, we'll catch you later, and I'll be back next week.
All right, glad you made it back to the radio room. I had one question, maybe a couple questions for the radio before you go. Brought a picture up. We had just checked in the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III, where we saw the transmitter and receiver basically the same size. They were stacked on top of each other. Here is the more traditional layout, with the transmitter being the smaller unit, the receiver, the bigger unit, side by side. And you are calling that the Browning Golden Eagle. So we had the Mark III. This would be, should I say, would this not be the original, the first ever in the Eagle series? Is that correct?
No. It would be the first in the Golden Eagle. The R27 S23 was considered the Eagle. On the front of the S23 it says Browning, and then below the word Browning it says Eagle S-23, and on the receiver below the word Browning it says Eagle R-27. So I think that would be the Eagle, first Eagle one. Before that you had the R2700A, and the R2700. I don't believe they said. Oh well, I'm looking at one right now. Yes, no word Eagle on them at all. On the R2700 or the R2700A, nor the 23S9 or S9. Neither said. None of those said. Whatever those said Eagle. The first one with the Eagle was the word Eagle would be the S23 and R27. Anyway, this one would be the first Golden Eagle.
All right, makes sense. The very popular radio and a status symbol as well, saying you had an Eagle or a Golden Eagle or the Mark III or Mark II. And Harvey has his adjusted so that you hear that noise. You know, if you're not familiar with it, what's that screech? Well, that's the screeching Eagle. That's the transmitter and receiver sort of shaking hands as you key the microphonium, and that was the sound that told you that someone had spent a lot of money for the radio. A lot of people I tried to cheat with my little Navajo Radio Shack back in the day, where you'd hold up the walkie-talkie next to your hand microphone to get that feedback noise, but people always knew. They always knew that you did not have the Browning Golden Eagle. The R68, T68, these came out in 1967 and 68 to be replaced by the Mark II, the Golden Eagle Mark II. So this is the Mark I, even though they didn't say that. And then in 1972 by the Mark III. There were two of these, the Series 1, the Series 2. The Series 2 had the transmitter with the lighted on the air light rather than a spotlight it was on the Series 1. And some receivers had the variable RF gain. Others had 3-position switch for RF gain. And there was an optional wood cabinet and an optional wood speaker, which we're showing in this, but the cabinet surrounded both units and made it look pretty cool if you had the speaker to go with it as well. Thanks, Harvey, for jumping in there and giving us the Browning. It sounds great, and hope we can hear more from your stations in future episodes.
Hey, Roger. I guess Browning or Gardner Green there, I think he liked birds. A mobile base that he came out with, 23 channel, was the Raven. And then they had I think it's a 5-channel one, and then the 23 channel, same radio version, was the Browning Drake. I forget the model number. Okay. Anyway, but that one had a picture of either a goose or a duck flying on there. So I guess it's a goose. Anyway, or some sort of bird like that flying on it. Anyway, so I guess the guy liked birds. Anyway, back to you.
It was certainly a theme for the radios. And there was also a Drake company, R.L. Drake, that had the same thing, the Swan and the Signet and items like that. So if you were into that, then you had to have the whole line, no doubt. Browning Golden Eagle R68, T68, R being the receiver, T being the transmitter. I believe Harvey has the radio, the Series 2 for our radio number 8 tonight. Doing a good job, sounding as good as it did back in 1967. Oh, before you go, how long have you had that radio?
Well, let's see. I moved here in 1979, and I already had the Golden Eagle Mark III. that I'd gotten when I was in the Bay Area. I would say 80 to 81, something like that. I was reading yard sale ads, and there was a guy that said CB equipment, and he was like 5 minutes from me, so I went on over there, and he had this radio, this microphone, and a 180 range booster. And I went, ooh, how much you want? And he told me, and fortunately, banks were open then. I don't believe they had many ATMs at that time. So I had to go to the bank and get some money. So I didn't carry much then, and I bought this thing. And everything worked except the range booster had a broken tube in it. And I eventually got another tube for it, and then there we go. But I would say 80, 81, because I got it here, and I was still in the first house that we had gotten when we moved here, so it has to be early 80s. Because I moved here in 79, and I know I was here for a little bit before I got it. So it's the second one that I got. By the way, Paul has all the Bird radios. I don't know if he has the 5-channel Browning Drake, but I know he has the 23-channel one. So he's the one that has to stock up on all the Bird feed, keep them alive. Okay, back to you.
I suspected something was up the last time I visited his Radio Shack and noticed that the floor was lined with newspapers. So keep the birds under control. Radio 8, the Browning Golden Eagle R68 T68, a comment from John Lee, SWL 128, saying he picked up a Courier Royale recently with the original fabric cover. I always thought those were something after the fact, but apparently they did come with the radio. He said it's a little bit faded and worn, but you do have the Courier cover, so that's a nice thing. In fact, what I'm thinking of doing, Harvey, I should have done this. Maybe we'll do this in 2019. I'm not prepped to do it tonight, but I can make the back side of the Tube Radio page. And for those of the digital SWLs who have operated a radio, an old Tube Radio within the week's period, they can let me know on the chat or on the video side, and I will log it in on the back side. So we'll start that next week. So if you're listening, any of our digital shortwave listeners, if you happen to fire up or test out an old Tube Radio throughout the week, when you come in on Saturday, let us know. Let us know the radio or radios that you were operating or fired up Tube radios that week, and I'll make a backside, and we'll start a new list for our radio operators so we can kind of see what's not only going on here live that you can hear, but what happened for our digital listeners. So I will do that. I think that would be pretty cool. And there's a lot of the stations out there that have collections like John Lee. I wonder if the Courier works. We'll find out. So think about that. If you've fired up a radio anytime during the week and you're on our digital listener site, next week I'll be polling those to write down what radios you might have been using. Thanks, Harvey, and have a good rest, and we will see you next week. And we are looking for radio number 9 as the radio becomes quiet.
Contact.
This is your contact frequency. Go ahead, over.
Hello, Dennis. 70 checking in, please.
Over to the big board, SWL 70, into the analog paper. And we'll say, hi, Mark, and hopefully you got a good amount of rain that didn't do anything bad.
Yeah, so far it's nice. Last time I looked at the gauge, it was somewhere between 1/4 and 1/2 inch. But, yeah, very nice. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. I think I had a bout of the flu, like on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. I mean, I've not been that sick in a long time. But I am A-OK, 99 and 44, 100% right now.
Well, at least you're doing better. That's good to hear, man. All right, well, I apologize for my being late every week for the last couple of years, but I appreciate you checking me in, sir.
As long as you hear the voice of some net controller, or you notice that the glowing 6L6 is still happening at oldtuberadio.net, it's probably not too late to check in. And you have done so, SWL70. Thanks, Mark. And OBP saying that Browning spun off from Drake. Yeah, that's what I thought. There was early. Browning's been around a lot. From Drake Browning during World War II. And they made test equipment for the military. Military was good for getting a lot of radio people started. Actually, there was no amateur radio operation during World War II, and then after the war, all that new technology, especially with radar and things like that, prompted all of the things that we are hearing today. So have fun with your radios, whether you are transmitting or tuning them in the SWL mode. Speaking of mode, the Jingle Singers are tapping on the glass and saying they would like to tell the listeners what it is that's happening here. So a little bit of magic from the Jingle Singers.
What are the magic numbers?
27.085 megahertz, channel 11.
Are the magic letters?
OTR.
Right here in
Fresno, California.
Radio Magic.
Old Tube Radio.
For you.
We are looking for radio number 9. And at 5:42 in the a.m., into the Radio Shack, or the Garden, is it the Garden Radio Shack? Big Ben waving a hand to those of us here at the Old Tube Radio Network, the shortwave listener, the tube radio operators. Ben, we're doing fine. I'm doing, after a bout with the flu, I think, doing well here tonight. We are at 8 radios looking for radio number 9. We've had some very interesting skip conditions in the middle of the program here. We made a contact again to 709 up in the Pacific Northwest, and we are listening for radios here for the next 15 minutes. And Corey, thanks for trying. Yeah, as you can hear, it is much quieter. The bottom has dropped out of our DX. So I'm thinking if you caught anything, it wasn't from this area. It might have been somewhere else. And my white balance is off tonight on the camera. So if I go over here, I get that kind of jaundiced look. Get over here, I kind of get more I get more orangey, I get more presidential. And then let me try the old white paper trick. No, I think that's as good as going to get unless I get into the camera controls. OTR, looking for radio number 9. We have the DX window. Even when it appears there are no conditions, 709 has the magic antenna. I wonder what are you using for an antenna there, 709, over? It's probably hearing the entire state of California. And if he's tuned in at oldtuberadio.net, he probably is hearing himself right now on the replay.
here in the northwest corner.
Okay, I caught the 6100, but I didn't catch what it was. Over. In a couple of years, all you're going to need is a piece of wire strung out the window when we get the sunspot numbers up in the triple digits. Oh, the 5100. Let me see if I got a shot of that. The B&W 5100. Now, there is some big iron. I want to... I'm not sure if you're on the B&W 5100, but that would certainly be a check-in if you were. All right, there it is. There's the picture from Mr. Pat Fennessy here in town, the B&W 5100B.
5100, that's a big 72-pound mother.
Yeah, I've got a picture of it right now. I'm going to put a picture of the Barker & Williamson 5100. That is a boat anchor for sure. Over. I've talked to a few of those. The guys up on 75 and 40 AM will occasionally have a B&W. And thanks, Tim. I figured he had to be on a Yagi or a focusing elemental device of some sort. And my goal this year in 2019 is to get some big iron up here at the Old Tube Radio Network control. We're working on that. I'm not sure it'll be as impressive as the B&W 5100, but it'll be close. OTR, working the skip, talking to 709 and looking for radio number 9. You know, I think the S meter on the Tram TR27E is even bigger than on the 5100.
You know, I think it is.
Although that radio is big, that's just a transmitter. I'm going to say it's probably a little bit bigger, but probably not much bigger than the Tram. But a heck of a lot heavier. Even Big Ben reporting some skip. And Ray, I've got an ARRL antenna book, and I'm looking at, it's a 2-meter design. It may not play for 11, but it's basically stacked loops that will, in 2 directions that make it omnidirectional, and they're folded, so you don't need extra space. I just ran across it last night, and I'm thinking, I wonder if I could get that to play on 11 meters and feed the thing vertically and then hang it on a zip wire between the trees and see if that plays up at 60 or 70 feet. For local and DX.
That could be nice. I have no trees.
I haven't got trees, but I've got power lines that are in the way, but I think I could swing something like that. I'll have to see. It's, you know, an antenna for 2 meters resized for 11 meters can get pretty big. Yeah, I'll check it out. It was actually in the book, but I believe it's probably out of one of their QST articles, so it may have a link to that, or it has a name, but sometimes these are real wacky antennas and they're not the standard issue. But it looked interesting. That's the first one I've seen where they're folding the loops, and then they're positioning 90 degrees or 180 degrees off to actually make the loops omnidirectional, but again, you've got gain in both directions. Look pretty interesting. Looking for Radio 9, by the way. And the band noise has come back up again.
I've gone all modern with the HF rig, except, of course, the amplifier. That's tubes.
No, that's okay. And I have never opened these. I've got a dial light, a pilot light going out in the VU meter on one of the mic preamps here, but both of those run 12AX7s, and I was just reading about them the other day, and everybody that has them says you need to go in and replace the cheap Chinese 12AX7 with this one to make it sound better. I'm thinking, I haven't done that yet. I doubt it would make any difference on this radio. It might if you're, running full fidelity somewhere.
Yeah, don't know about the Chinese, but I've had good luck with the Russian tubes.
Ray says maybe we should make an old tubelinears.net. There's probably plenty of those. Solid state ones are a bit pricey.
And they really don't take abuse very well either.
Yeah, they sort of have to have the abuse or the dummy thing built in so you don't break them.
Yeah, don't key up on the wrong band, a number of other things.
It looks like the newer ones are actually getting better at that, but you look at some of the reviews on the early ones, like the 7000 that Yaesu had and some other ones. They do have a lot of, like, oopsies. Even Ameritron has at least one. Actually, they have two, right? They used to have the ALS 600 was their mobile. Well, they call it mobile. Obviously, it could do anything, but I think they even have a bigger one now.
I think they do, but I don't remember what it is.
And then that Class E transmitter, the guy was building the D104 limiters for that radio, that's all solid state as well, and that thing puts out, well, it'll put out a kilowatt AM, meaning that it will do probably 300 or 400 watts carrier, and that's all solid state. And just reading those, he had a lot of built-in protections on those. And Ray is admitting he has experience in what we're talking about. The Old Tube Radio Network looking for radio number 9. Counting and amounting soon. Jingle singers are saying, okay, well, let's do one more. They have to earn their keep around here.
Let's do some spelling.
OTR. 27.085 megahertz. Channel 11, Old Tube Radio. Old Tube Radio.
Break OTR.
The break OTR, go ahead, please, over.
Yes, I'd like to check in after my nice long nap.
Well, you and Harvey both made it in tonight after a long winter's nap, so that's very good. Let me go over to the SWL page, the 40 item. So I figured that you are out working the DX, which has been here and gone already. Stations reporting all across the U.S., little short hops and medium hops on this band, 10 meters and also 6 meters as well. SWL 40 is checked in over.
6 meters, wow. Fascinating. Well, I think I did hear something of that nature earlier today. But I'm just going through some of the junk I got at the thrift store. Got a whole bucket. Well, not a bucket. It's like one of those bins, like a storage bin full of goodies.
But with your other storage bin full of goodies, well, hopefully they're good goodies.
Oh yes, they're very, very good goodies. Like a roll of Kester solder, many electrical crimp connectors, several tool items. What else? And a doggy leash.
Bet you could resonate that up in 2 meters.
Yeah, I gotta figure that out. And I got some books. Let's see, I got a book on knives, and then I have a Sincere bicycle service book. That's going to come in handy someday. What else? This is the cream of the crop right here. The Spring J&R Music World Audio Video Computer Electronic Catalog, 1984.
Well, just shoot them a postcard and get their catalog. Get the new one.
You would not believe all the boom boxes that were available at that time. And of course, the Tommy Home computer system. Remember the Tommy Home computer system?
No, I believe Tommy wasn't home when I had one. And we are still looking for radio number 9 as we start counting and amounting.
And of course, it has a full 2 pages of VIC-20 Commodore software.
VIC-20. Who's the Commodore 64 guy? That's Ken. Don't you love radio propagation? It's just totally quiet now. Just the band opens, it closes, atmosphere changes. That's the magic of radio. I think that's why we all have the radio bug. No wires, no monthly fees, nobody to tell you that you can't do this or do that, or we're going to restrict what you want, or we're going to place an advertisement in before you can talk to Spokane. It's just there, and you're part of it. And how you choose to manipulate it or don't is your choice. The magic of radio.
You're tuned to
OTR. Channel 11.
right here in
Fresno, California.
Stay with us
Old Tube Radio.
and be modern.
Counting and amounting, back in a moment.
And then there's the RCA Select Division Color TV monitor receiver. Oh, and your cost is only $519 for the 19-inch RCA Select Division Color TV.
You know, OTR is now in color. Last call for check-ins.
Ladies and gentlemen, time now for the current OTR totals.
We'll call it the current and final. Boy, they're loud with those brass things. This is the final totals, I guess, for tonight. Our first net of 2019. January 5 is what I've got in the paper here. 8 radios total. Band open up. Hello to 709 checking in once again on possibly the Barker and Williamson's 5100. Hopefully we talk to him more. I'd like to hear more about that particular rig or what he does with it. But in the meantime, we did very good. We did very well with our local stations here. And starting off the new year with some of the early 60s radios, the boat anchors of Class D, 11 meters. Radio number 1, the General Radio Telephone MC2 from 1959. Sounded real good, Paul. Hope you can listen in our archives or watch the video replay. Also sounding nice and loud, the Sonar Model G from SWL 25. Radio 3 was the Tram Titan, or the Tram TR27E. Did I mention yet the most heard radio manufacturer tonight? I bet I didn't. You might think it was the Browning Golden Eagles with 2 checking in, but in reality, it would be the General Radio Telephones with 3. In chronological order, the MC2, the MC3, which was our 4th radio checked in tonight, and the MC4, which was the 6th radio checked in tonight, and those were all from SWL 45 Paul's collection. The bestest in the westest, and we are very pleased to be within range. There are a lot of great collections out there that we are not in range to hear, unfortunately. As the band open up, we will hear some of them. And like I mentioned before, those of you who are, as we say, digital SWLs, if you fired up a radio coming in the next week, let us know on Saturday. We can put it in the comments, and I'm going to start a list on the back for those of you who have been transmitting on radios during the week that we can't hear, and see how we do. See what's the popular manufacturer around the Universal Media Netweb. Radio 5 was Mr. Ed on the E.O. Johnson Messenger 223. Radio 7 was also Mr. Ed SWL7 on the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB. And then Harvey correctly setting the clock for Universal Coordinated Time and not whatever time that he's normally monitoring, jumping into the studio tonight and showing us the Browning Golden Eagle R68, T68. So hopefully they're not working you too hard, but maybe that'll give you, as they say, some extra shekels to put in the radio fund. So great for our 8 radios. We had 11 check-ins on page 1, 14 on page 2, 12 on page 3, and 10 on page 4, for a total of 47 SWLs tonight, and a good time in 2019 where we hope all things radio will be improving, and I think they will, and your Radio Shacks will, and antenna farms, like I hope mine will be getting bigger and better or more efficient, and all those things. I've been reading the antenna books, so I'm trying to do my homework. We will see. Thanks to SearchLawrence.com and Frodex for keeping the digital side and the Nixie tubes running, and thanks to all of you, of course, for keeping us going, starting our 86th, 34th year, I guess, something like that. It's been a long time. It's been fun, and we will do it again next week, 8 p.m. Pacific Time, 27085, the Old Tube Radio Network, 73, everybody. Good DX.
Good night. Good night.
Thank you much, Dennis.
Good night to all the SWLs.
And you would not believe this, but here in this catalog, you can buy the Cobra 2000 Deluxe AM Sideband base station for only $329.95.
What would one expect to pay for that radio now on eBay?
I've seen them go as high as $1,500, brand new in the box.
And why, pray tell, would they be that much?
Because people pay that much. That's the bidding.
That's eBay for you. OTR started before there was eBay, when it was hard to find a radio except locally, and when you did, the price was going to be $10 or $15 because someone wasn't saying, well, wait a minute, this one of these is sold for $500 on eBay for no particular reason. The good thing about eBay that helped our situation was that all of a sudden these radios that were rare, that we hadn't heard before, or those that were making large collections of something, had this extra expanse yard sale all over the U.S. called eBay, where in the early days, you might find something for a decent price. So eBay actually helped OTR in the early days of eBay, just opening up horizons for grabbing radios. It still works today, but I guess you have to know what you're doing, unlike me. All right, good night, everybody. We're going to drop the video. The 6L6 over there will be safe to touch at some point. And good night to all those listening. No, I didn't check. If I grab the right mouse, if anybody has... good night. Mr. Juliet Whiskey is signing off there, and nobody else. All right, catch you next time on the Old Tube Radio Network, 73.
73s.
And then the video went to nothing.